Okay, do-it-yourselfers. Today we're going to be changing the rear brake pads on this 2001 Voltswagen Cabrio. The first thing you're going to need to get started is a floor jack, jack stands, and of course a lug wrench or a breaker bar and a few other tools. While the car is sitting here on the ground, you're going to want to take those outside protective caps off right here and then get to the inner lug nut and loosen them up. Then place your 17mm socket on the actual lug nuts and just barely crack them loose. Don't break them all the way loose because your vehicle isn't jacked up yet. Just crack them loose just enough to make sure that you can get them off with ease. Next, you want to jack up the car and then secure it with a jack stand and then proceed to pull off your lug nuts and tire. And here's what you're dealing with. Not your traditional style lug nuts. Now once the lug nuts are all off, if the tire hasn't been released from the vehicle, you can take a ball peen hammer and strike it on the inside, outside, top and bottom of the tire back and forth, and it will come loose. Sometimes you can kick it and it'll pop off. Just do not strike the rim because it will cause damage. Now if you strike it a few times and it doesn't come off, it's because the rust is built up back here and pushed up against this actual rim, so it's going to be a little bit difficult getting off here. I like using deep creep, and I'll spray it all around where the rim meets up with your rotor and give it a second to set in, and then I'll proceed to hammer it a few more times and get it to pop off here. Now once this is off the ground, your tire should spin freely. You can turn it and hit it on that one side as you're turning it, so you get a better swing, more force into different sides of the actual rim. Between that and the deep creep, it'll pop it right off here, as you can see. We will take brake clean and clean this rotor off. It does have slight grooves in it. I did recommend to the owner that they go ahead and change the rotor while they was at it, but they chose not to this time around. Didn't have the finances, which I can completely understand. But these rotors have this assembly with them. You pull the whole piece off, change it. What we're changing here today is going to be the pads. And if they don't change these rotors, it's going to wear them little grooves into the pads that you've seen at the beginning of the video here. Now we should need a 7/16 for the bleeder plug here. And then we got another 15 and a 13mm. And what we're going to be taking loose is going to be these bolts right here. These are going to be your 13mm. This should be a 15 or a 16, depending on your vehicle. You have to put the wrench on the inside here onto this fastener. Now when you do this, you're going to have to hold this wrench and then start loosening this one back here up. Once that's done, you'll go to the bottom here and you'll do the same thing on the bottom, and then we'll pry this caliper off here. For this application, I've got this Roto Ratchet that I picked up at Harbor Freight and a little Stanley deep well 12-point socket. That way I can get at this at an angle. It makes my life easier, and if it makes your life easier, it's well worth investing in it if you're a mechanic or if you're a do-it-yourselfer. This is the one on the bottom. You can feel around for it right there, just enough to put your wrench on that inner fastener. And once those are all loosened up, you pull your little bolts here out of the way, and then your caliper might slide right off here. If it don't, get yourself a little pry bar of some kind. Try not to let your caliper hit the ground or anything. Just slowly pry it back and forth until it breaks loose here. It's where these striking cap screwdrivers here You know, they're cheap from Harbor Freight. They make good little pry bars. If you need to beat on something, they come in handy. Because these things can get wedged in here sometimes. You just go back and forth a little at a time. Like I said, try not to let your caliper hit the ground. And once they come loose for you, you can just take it, move it right over here out of the way. This will have the emergency brake cable on it. You can just kind of set it out of the way, but it'd be easier if you got a hook to use to put through the caliper to hold it up on your springs here. We'll pull our brake pads off here, what's left of them. These are in here pretty tight because they've been worn down pretty good. That one's still got some pad on it, but the one on the inside didn't, so it was wearing slightly faster on the piston side of this. Not quite middle to middle, but it was damn sure close. And while we got these out, we're going to go ahead and check these. Make sure your little dust boots there are not damaged or broken, and you're going to want to make sure they got grease in them. So you just gently pull it right out there. You definitely want to see grease. If they're dry, they get seized up. Your caliper won't move, any of that stuff, and then you're in for a world of hurt because you'd have to take a torch, heat them, tap them, drill them, all that good stuff. It's just not fun. So make sure to grease these. They got this grease at any auto parts store. High temperature disc brake wheel bearing grease. It doesn't take too much, just kind of dip them in the ends of them right there, and then go back and put them in their holes, work them in and out. Stick this one in here, put this one in here, push it in and out a little bit. You move it in there enough, you'll kind of feel it pop and feel that suction, hold it in place. There we go. Kind of use it like a plunger back and forth. Move it around, nice good lubrication. Means that caliper will move back and forth smoothly. Now the next thing on the list to do is try to get this piston pushed back in there. Unfortunately, it looks like one of those that twist in either left or right, and it's a frustrating thing that most people got to deal with. So we're going to have to break this bleeder plug loose, and it's going to be an 11mm or a 7/16. So you're going to need yourself a line wrench, something like this, or a regular wrench. And I'm going to use this tool today, or attempt to, because this is what most people will probably pick up for 10 bucks. They do make better kits. I'll put them in the description box below also. The way those blocks function is you got to find out which one of those grooves on those corners will fit inside those holes, and then you put a 3/8 drive extension and ratchet on there, and then decide whether it goes left or right. Really frustrating to do. Now the very, very frustrating part here is you got to hold that caliper nice and still. You got to open up the bleeder plug, and then you got to put nice firm pressure on it, hold it steady, and then hope to God that the caliper goes in real easy while you're trying to screw it back into place with this setup. Get it nice and straight here. And this could be frustrating. And if you're not sure which direction it goes, you just got to push in and try to see if it goes left or right, and whether it will come in or out. Don't get a big hurry, because you'll break your fingers doing this. You'll bust your knuckles. You'll get really, really, really mad. It's worth having patience, or it's worth buying a better tool to do this job with. Now keep in mind that I'm a seasoned mechanic, and this method just does not work. I would rather burn most vehicles that have these on them than to use this tool setup right here. So let me show you the tool you need to get for the job. What you need for this job is this tool kit right here, and it'll only cost you about 50 bucks, and it is well worth its weight in gold, let me tell you. This tool kit comes with just about everything you need. It's got your thruster bolts, all of your little adapters right here, and then you find the right adapter that fits this piston right here. In an air case, I believe it's number F, and we're going to go with the RH for the right-handed threads. Then you get it all hooked up here. Get everything adjusted down, make sure your adapter's in place, tightened up against the caliper, and then all you got to do is start twisting, and it will gradually put pressure on this while twisting the piston back into the caliper. All you have to do is tighten this one to the left. All right, as you can see here, you just keep turning it, and as it twists, it tightens it up. Now if it starts getting loose, just keep twisting this here to the left, and it'll keep it tightened up, and it'll keep pressure right there on that piston. Once everything in there is nice and flush, the little rubber booty and the piston is flush together, then you can pull it off and start reassembling. Hardware off here, get the new hardware ready. Just pull it off. Same thing on the top, if it's got it up there, pull it off too. Put the new hardware on. And now when you pull them off, these should sit in here this direction around the rotor. It should slide right down inside this little hole. Pop it into place. Then it'll be down in there like so. If you have to, you can slightly bend the little clips to go in between the rotor there. Once the top and bottom's in place, go ahead and get your little brake shoes out here. Now these should all be the same. The springs will provide tension up against your caliper as you slide it back on. So what you need to do, slide them in place, make sure that they're going to fit right. And these should slide right in. You might have to wiggle them and peck on them a little bit. New ones might be slightly thicker than what they should be. Some people file them down. Most of the time they'll fit right in there where you need them at though. Now once the brakes are on there, you're going to need to bring this caliper up, and it'll probably take 2 hands to push down, because them springs right there need to be lined up right in between your sight. Okay, these are like a little sight window right here. You can look through it, make sure the springs in there nice and level, and then you push them up, push these little, there we go, and then start one of your bolts up here, start the one at the bottom next. As long as you can get one of them slightly started with a few threads right there, all that'll do is lock into those slide pins, and then you can look in here, make sure everything is adjusted just right. Upper and lower spring on this one, the upper and lower spring on this one. Then you'll get your bottom one ready, and you'll push in with one hand, and as you're lining it up, put your other bolt in. You can see here, I'll be pushing in on one until I can get the threads started on this one. And I'll put my 15mm wrench back on this one. Start tightening it down. Broke loose here. We'll go up here to the top one. Now as you can see, everything is done here. The thing that made it happen the fastest is going to be this kit right here, and it's going to be well worth buying if you plan on doing your brakes yourself. All we got left to do now is line the tire up, put all our studs back in it, tighten everything up, do the other side, and of course go test it out. If you want to see more tool reviews, do-it-yourself, how-to videos, and much more, make sure to pop the clutch on that subscribe button, and also go over to Instagram. Click follow on the Backwoods Mechanic page. You'll see tool reviews, deal alerts, and the tools in action I use on this channel. Thanks for watching.